Welcome into this week's show. Jayson Williams, aka Space Vols, joining us here this week. Talk a little Tennessee basketball, Tennessee football. How's it going, Jason?
Hey, I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. Trying to survive this quote winter weather we're having here in Knoxville. It's just a bunch of rain. It has poured rain here all day here on Sunday. I guess we're waiting to see what it does overnight when it turns 18 degrees and see what all that
That's right.
water on the roads do. So hopefully you
Yeah.
guys are surviving over there in Charlotte tonight.
Yeah, we're doing all right. A lot of, kind of freezing rain back and forth, transitioning from, just, regular rain to freezing rain, sleet, just a whole bunch of different stuff that this area hasn't seen in a while. But we're surviving. I hope you guys are doing the same.
Good. I've got some family in the upstate there in Spartanburg, so
Hmm.
they got to play in the snow today.
They
So
did. They did.
it's kind of rare. We usually get the snow here, and they don't. And it was vice versa this week.
That's right. That's right.
So we haven't recorded here on YY8 probably I think since gosh I can't remember. It's been a couple weeks, but
Yeah.
Tennessee has played Kentucky last week. They were off this past week. We're at Alabama last night. Interesting matchup between the Vols and the Crimson Tide. It's always a tight game, tight affair when these two get together, especially under Barnes and Oates. But the big storyline last night was Bediako getting to come
Hmm.
back from the G League. What was your thoughts on that and this whole situation in college athletics right now?
I try to stay as professional as I can. Having a show like you guys do, talking to media folks as I do every week. I try to stay as professional as possible. Um, what we're going through right now in college athletics, seen a lot of it in football. With obviously the portal and NIL and rev share that's coming. So it's only going to need more rules that we don't have. But as far as basketball goes, to see a player who played at Alabama a couple of years ago get to come back after signing three professional contracts is it's just it's a curveball I'm not used to. It's definitely very different. I don't know if the word fairness comes into play a lot, and I just think that we need to know exactly what is allowed and what is not allowed. A lot of verbiage and a lot of words going down about the judge that was able to grant Bidiaco the um, eligibility immediately and his connection to the area. Of course, it's going to be in Tuscaloosa, that county, that area. We know that, but the connection to the program. I'm not also going to sit here and tell you that if it happened to Tennessee, I wouldn't be happy either, because that would be a lie. I think we need more rules. It's just unprecedented what we're seeing. Um, as it turned out, Charles Bediaco didn't really end up determining the game. He had some good plays. He wasn't really a factor. Um, Alabama's backcourt not playing was a factor. Them having five guys out, as I've been told, it was a factor. That was a factor for Alabama. Um, but what's going on right now in college athletics is it's one of those things. If you don't keep up and you're not willing to change and you don't like the change 5 seconds from the last time it changed, you're going to be kind of lost and you're going to be off the bus. So it's either get in or be very unhappy. And that's where we are.
It seemed like the NCAA has rules against this, although they're allowing the European or foreign players to do this, but not the American players, which is what John Calipari talked about a couple weeks ago. But they came out with the statements like we disagree with this, but it was overturned by a judge. I don't know what's going to end up happening with this. Um, I hope that if the judge rules in favor of Alabama, that the NCAA will try to divvy out some, no, I don't want to call it punishment, but justice in where they seed Alabama. Because it's just not, it's like Alabama went to the waiver wire basically and picked up somebody middle of the season. And it's just not what college athletics should be about. This is not professional, even though these guys are making some money now. I get that, but I just it did not set well with me, and I'm glad Tennessee ended up winning, which we'll get to in a second. But you know, he he wasn't much of a factor. He was a little bit. I mean, with them missing Holloway and the other guy, their number two and three leading scorer, he definitely helped, but he wasn't as big of a factor as I thought he might be.
No.
But you didn't know. I mean, he hadn't really practiced with them all that much. He'd been there, what, 3 days, 2 days? So
Yeah.
it
Right.
was just fascinating to watch that play out over the end of the week yesterday.
Yeah. It's just if that's going to be the rule, if that's how it's going to be like a waiver wire situation, the way you're describing it, then make it that way. Make it that way for all. Let's not allow these guys who have been, in the G League, signed 3 professional contracts, as I said, bounced around, been in the lower tiers of the NBA. I mean, the G League is essentially, minor league NBA. And then let him just waltz into college basketball, um, because it was convenient for Alabama to pick him up. And Nate Oates saying a couple of weeks ago that he didn't really, kind of talking down about a potential situation, like what happened with Charles Bediako, and then essentially doing it. And I don't blame. It's kind of like Nick Saban, and I know, Alabama or Tennessee fans, they get on me for talking about Nick Saban, but it's like he said, when it comes to football, it's not the coach's fault. It's it's the NCAA. Fix it. Fix it. There are rules, but they're not being enforced. So we need better litigation government wise, through the course of the judicial system, whatever it may be. Let's get something that makes sense, because this is not right. This is not well. I don't think it's good for the long term, health of the NCAA and college athletics.
Yeah, I agree. Um, we just mentioned Tennessee. This game featured Bediako, but Tennessee ended up winning 79-73. Didn't look great early on, but Nate Ament played like a five-star that we all hoped and wanted him to be. Coming into last night, I think over his past 3 games, he was averaging 19 points and 5 boards and a couple assists a game. He had a really good night. Really good is probably an understatement. 29 points, 7 boards, 3 assists. He was 10 of 20 from the field. Gillespie was right there with him with 24. But do you think this was Nate Ament's come out party, and will he continue this run he's on?
You can kind of see it coming. The last handful of games, see him coming into his own. It was important for him to really get involved because Jacoby Gillespie had been the guy who was doing a lot of the work. So now you get a guy like Nate Ament, obviously 5-star freshman, a top 10, consensus pick in next year's draft. Yeah, on most boards, to get him more involved really, really helps Tennessee. And he had a great game, and I can see it coming. And it was just about piecing it together for him. He's long and lengthy, and he can handle the ball, and he could play from anywhere on the court. And once he got in his own and was able to figure all that out, he was going to be completely unstoppable. And that's what we saw: almost 30 points to your point, and 50% shooting from the floor. Just an incredible job. Can't say enough about Nate. And he took the team on his back. We talked about Jacoby Gillespie being the guy for a lot of the time that Tennessee has been playing ball games. I've been saying on the show that I do, it's really important that we get more people involved, in the distributing the basketball that Nate Ament did, and everything he was able to do. I can't say enough. So proud and so impressed with how Nate Ament played.
What's your thoughts on this basketball team right now? They're 3-3 in conference, 13-6 overall. I was looking this afternoon. They're back into the top 25 in both Ken Palm and the net rankings and a lot of the analytics. They lost a tough one at Arkansas. They fell apart late. They lost a tough one to Kentucky. They fell apart late. Last night I was sitting there watching it, texting some buddies, as Danny White always says, and we're all not necessarily me, but some of the others were waiting on them to fall apart again. It didn't happen. They went the other way. Um, I've not been so down on this team as some have been because you look at their losses. They lost at Arkansas by 11. Like I said, fell apart late. They lost to Kentucky at home, which is not a bad loss, but it's how you lost looks bad. The only bad
Yeah.
loss they've had this year in terms of score is at Florida. They beat A&M, who only has one loss in conference. Nice win against Alabama on the road last night. They've got Georgia and Auburn coming up this week, on the road at Georgia now on Wednesday, and then at home versus Auburn Saturday night. So what's your thoughts on this team as a whole? Can they put together a run here, or are they just going to be a 500 team from here on out?
Well, this would be the time to do it. You're going to play a team in Auburn coming up that is not, it's not Bruce Pearl's Auburn. Um, you're going to play an Ole Miss team, that's a good but beatable. You're going to get Kentucky again. You're going to see Alabama again. You're going to get an Oklahoma team that's not as good as many people thought they would be. They're not very good at all. All right, I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
I guess I can't really sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
I mean, but um, to answer the question, this is the time to make the run. This right here, you're getting to the meat of everything. You know what I mean? You've seen some of these teams. You're going to see some again. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And this would be a critical point in the season. To go back to what you said a little bit about Arkansas, Tennessee was up by 3 points in the second half. All right. And what happened was is they decided to miss free throws, not play defense, and turn the ball over. You can't say that if one thing or two went right for Tennessee, they win the game. A lot of things needed to go right, but those things are fixable. All right. It's not unfixable. The Kentucky loss is bad because of how it happened. Like you said, the downfall started right before halftime, and they just didn't decide to play defense coming out of the locker room second half, and that's just bad. You're going to get a chance to atone for that here in less than a couple weeks. So everything that Tennessee has to play for to get to March, to get to the second weekend or further in the tournament is in front of them. Right now, probably a 5 or a 6 seed, and that's not a bad place to be. So those 5-12, 6-11 matchups are always kind of weird. But with the SEC getting 13 teams in the tournament last year, obviously I think you're going to get something similar. If not 13, something similar. I think Tennessee is right there and able to do damage. To say Final Four, to say, will this team finally get to the Final Four for the first time ever? This program, it would be amazing from what happened from the Kansas game on, and then obviously finishing conference or non-con strong, and then tough start to conference play. It would be amazing to see them get to the second weekend. All that to say, this is where you're going to need to start right now to make that run. I think they're perfectly capable, and I think the next handful of weeks are going to be extremely telling.
So they're favored against at Georgia. They're favored a little bit more heavily. Of course, it's at home against Auburn. And I'm assuming they'll be favored at home against Ole Miss 2 Tuesdays from now, and then they go to Kentucky on February 7th, that Saturday night. So, yeah, I think this next 4 game stretch, go 4-0, 3-1, and you've set yourself right back in. Maybe not the mix for the conference title, but you know, try to get to that top 4 range would be.
Right.
That's always kind of. I don't care if they win the regular season or not. I want them to finish in that top 4. Uh,
Yeah, that's
I
right. And I forgot about the Georgia game, which is not going to be any fun at all. I
no.
know that Georgia took one on the chin, but that's not going to be any fun at all. So,
Especially not at Stegman Coliseum. It's not the
yeah,
flashiest facility, but it's not the easiest place to play. I remember going down there when I was in college, and Bruce Pearl was the coach, and that was when Tennessee basketball hysteria took off, and they took a whole like 2 or 3 busloads of people down there. And that game, I mean, we were really good. They were not. I mean, and it took. I think we went to overtime, if I remember correctly, that night. But not an easy place to play. It's dark. It's dreary. Georgia's better this year.
yeah,
They're a better
they are.
basketball team. So yeah, I think they need to. I don't think it's must-win games, but they probably need to go 2-0 at least this week. Uh,
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
maybe
for
even
sure.
3-0 their next three heading to Rupp Arena because you know how it can get up there sometimes. But
Yeah.
um, I think you said you'd seen and I'd seen too Tennessee 5 or 6 seed.
Mhm.
Um, we've been what 2 and 3 seeds the past few years, but
Yep.
I I think that's probably about right for this team right now. Again, like you said, they've got time and plenty of games in front of them to improve on that, but I think that's probably about right now. This team being a 5 or 6 seed.
Yeah, and you can't argue with it. Obviously potential with the games remaining on the schedule to be able to bump that up to a 3 or 4, because the SEC is one of the toughest, if not the toughest, basketball conference. I mean, there are a lot. Look, the Big Ten is good, the Big 12 is good. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of really good basketball conferences. You know what I mean? And I don't mean any disrespect to the ones I didn't mention, but I mean the SEC is a really good basketball conference. It's come up in the last handful of years. To get 13 teams last year was incredible. I mean, that's unprecedented. I don't know if it'll be done again. But where they are right now is where they should be, and I'd be happy with that seed based off of play. But the ability to go up or down. I mean, we saw SEC teams get 8, 9, 10 seeds last year. 8 or 9. So obviously the flexibility is there, but Tennessee is right where they should be.
I didn't I got a text this afternoon, kind of switching gears just a little bit, still on basketball, but the Lady Vols are 6-0. They're the last
They are.
undefeated team in the SEC. That's
They are.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
No, not early in the year when Kim Caldwell's team was just not able to put it together. In her words, she was just not happy, not excited, not thrilled with her ball club early. And this hire that Danny White made is phenomenal. And I saw it last year and I'm seeing it again. Like, you want to talk about trajectory and going in the right direction. Kim Caldwell is what this program needed, what the athletic department needed in women's basketball. There's no doubt about it. And she's not going to let these girls, she's not going to let these young women get away with not playing her style of offense and defense that she wants. It's unacceptable. And they bought in. They have bought in and they have had some elite wins, some fantastic wins. And I mean, that's the talk of the athletic department right now. You know what I mean? We got baseball coming in 20 days. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? Basketball is not what everybody maybe had thought to this point, even though they've got opportunity. Football was what football was. You know, the softball program is always good. Baseball, we'll see about what Josh Elander has in store. That's going to be a fantastic watch. You know what I mean? After Tony, the era after Tony Vitello. But what Kim Caldwell has done is amazing. 6-0 in conference. I'm so proud of her and this program. She's got them performing fantastic, and I look forward to a really great stretch run and then a really good run in March for Lady Vols.
Yeah, they've got a tough one. I think it was supposed to be today, but it was postponed at Ole Miss to Monday, and then hosting Mississippi State at Thompson Bowling Arena, Food City Center on Thursday. So we'll see how they do. Um, I wanted to ask you because I've gotten into some arguments with some people on X or social media, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But I wanted to get your thoughts. I've been asking a lot of people about this. Danny White, what's your thoughts on him? How he's managed the athletics department? He seems to be getting an awful lot of I don't know if hate's the right word, but probably so. Especially since Vitello left to go to the Giants. That seemed to be really when it picked up. But justified or no?
Yes and no. So we've got to go back before we go forward. So to go back to 2020, um, the position and the state that the athletic department was in before Danny White came in 2021. We'll have to go back to. Um, Danny White comes in. He brings in Josh Heupel. Everybody thinks, well, that's his buddy. You know what I mean? It was an easy hire. Josh Heupel got out of the gate to a really, really great start. Has had a good has had good wins, has had sustainability, has been able to get between 8 and 10 to 11 wins every year. Year 5 is complete now. Danny White made a really good hire in women's basketball, gave Rick Barnes a lifetime contract. Didn't get along, to my understanding, with Tony Vitello as good as maybe some ADs and baseball managers, baseball skippers would get along. Tony Vitello won a national championship under, while Danny White is here in Knoxville. So Danny White has made all the right moves in terms of the athletic department. Do people want to complain about the talent fee? Yes, they do. Are games expensive? Yes, they are. I'm blessed to be able to go to games. My brother-in-law, he's my brother, has season tickets, and he takes me. Do I pay for those tickets? No, I don't. I get it. They're expensive. I know how much he pays, and it would be a kick in my pants if I had to pay that. But what I do pay for is food. We split, right? The point is, it's expensive. Okay? I get it. Is that what it takes to compete in collegiate athletics in this era of college football? Yes. Yes. Are there 20,000 people waiting for tickets? You could judge that for yourself. Would you deny it? I can't. Knoxville and the University of Tennessee is one of the greatest places I've ever been in my life. I'm not from the South. I'm from out West. There's nothing like it. I know it. I don't have to see everything to know it. So there are people waiting, and there will be. Is that going to be scrutinized? It sure will be. I'm not going to scrutinize Danny White for that. Where I will get to when I said yes and no to you, the no comes in when we talk about the athletic director at the University of Tennessee, a top 7 valued university program athletic department in the country. What is it? 1.12 billion?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about that, we talk about the athletic director at Tennessee talking with random people on Twitter. That's where I get sideways. And I'm not going to tell the man, I won't tell anybody how to fan. And I won't tell any athletic director who makes way more money than I'll ever dream of how to run his program, how to run these athletic departments. I understand it. Danny White needs to stop talking with Joes and Jimmys and Joes on Twitter. That's all I am. You don't need to talk to me, man. You're the athletic director. Do what you do and be done with it. Because the entertainment district, he took a big hit. I was on a show with Irish Hammer. You probably know who that is. Mm-hmm. And we had a great talk. Hammer just made a comment about a post. He didn't even know Danny White was tagged in it. And he made a comment. And Danny White quote tweeted him. And it blew up. And I happened to be on the show the day after it blew up. And I don't know why we're talking about it, to be honest. I mean, it was great for him and it was cool for me and it's wonderful for everybody to interact. But if you tag that man, there is a good chance he may answer you. And that should never happen. That should never happen. I mean, if I'm not a guy with a show and I'm not here talking to you and I'm a quote unquote, not even a troll, just an average person. And he answers me. Well, of course I'm going to go for I'm going to go for the home run. I'm not going to go for a single. I'm going to go for it all because you're talking to me. Danny White needs to stop talking to people. That's my point. Everything else Danny White has done, in my opinion, I won't argue with. I mean, we could get into the reasons why Josh Heupel maybe had to get rid of Tim Banks. We could do that. That may be a whole different show. But what Danny White has done up to this point, I mean, his approval rating, it doesn't go any lower than a B for me. And I mean, but that little part that I mentioned, it's a long-winded answer to
Yeah.
a shorter question. I know, and I apologize for that, but um, it's really Danny White has done mostly a fantastic job. It's just that little part about entertaining people on Twitter. He should probably stop doing.
It was like he was sitting on his toilet, just responding to just responding to people. And he does that every now and then.
Yeah,
I was torn on it because, a lot of the stuff that's on social media, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, whatever, a lot of it's either people don't know what they're talking about, it's incorrect info, or they've been told something incorrect. So I think he was probably frustrated at the time because that comment was put out there and he was like, well, that's not right. So I'll just respond to this guy. I hope that's what he was thinking. Probably a little arrogance involved in there too. Just you can kind of tell it just by looking at him. But I agree with you. I think he's done an outstanding job here. I mean, look at where this athletics department was 5 years ago, well, 6 years ago now on the calendar. Not just football, but all of our sports, just not, besides men's basketball, just not great. Um, Building a new baseball stadium. They've got some renovations, upgrades planned for Sherry Parker Lee, the softball facility. Um, Built a great golf complex off of Alcoa Highway. So done a lot of great things. Fundraising's through the roof, revenues through the roof. But like we've talked about on here, Harb and I have, it all comes back to football. We had a down year this year by what we are have been used to the past few years. And we've said on here before, like, what does Josh Heupel need to do to take that next step? And I think that involves Danny White and athletics department. And I think they showed a commitment this offseason since the season's been over, in just their hiring. They've brought in a really highly respected top tier defensive coordinator, brought in a highly respected top tier strength and conditioning coordinator. Um, so I think they've showed a commitment to the football program. So you can't blast him on that, but um, he's always going to get hate for this entertainment district because honestly, I should be more mad about it than I really am because we park in G10 for games on Saturdays, and I
right.
don't know what we're doing next year. We haven't been
Yeah,
told anything. I thought they were supposed to start building this thing right after the season or right before the Vanderbilt game this past season, but I drive by there every day on my way to my office, and there's not one piece of equipment there working on said entertainment district. So who knows when it'll start, what it'll look like, but.
that's right.
Speaking of Tennessee football, transfer portal, quickly, what's your thoughts on that? How have they done?
Thoughts on the portal are, it's been a hectic time for Tennessee. Um, I would say that the Vols did really good. When it comes to the portal, they were able to get a lot of pieces that they needed. Obviously, heavy defense, right? So we're talking about Jim Knowles coming in and evaluating. So during bowl practice, Jim Knowles came in and he was watching the team, seeing how they were performing and stuff, and looking at it, obviously thinking, okay, we got to go out and get some dudes. So typically Knowles defense, which transitions from a lot of different looks, 3-3-5, 3-4, 3-3, etc. You know what I mean? A lot of different looks needs a little bit of time to start to cook. But if you get if you get chefs that already know the recipes, we'll use that, kind of analogy. If you get guys that know the system, which he brought in 4 Penn State players at least. So, once you get guys that know the system and they're able to implement it, it makes it a little bit easier. Getting guys like Arion Carter to come back and all the Tennessee linebackers that they have. I think Tennessee linebacking core is going to be one of the best, if not the best in the SEC. It's going to be fantastic. I think the secondary is going to be upgraded. When I say that in a way where Tennessee had 2 really, really high level talents missing from the secondary. And you could even, say Boo Carter as the third because of the freshman season that he had. Not sure what happened sophomore year, but that's not here or there anymore. But you could see a lot of pieces were missing, and Tennessee was just trying to patch together stuff in the secondary. So defense heavy in the portal. Had to do it, had to be that way. Offensively is where we kind of, some people may differ from what I'm going to say, and there's a lot of different opinions. A lot of folks don't really think that Tennessee needed a lot in the portal offensively. We'll wait and see on Joey Aguilar. We'll wait and see on him February 10th to see if he gets another year. If not, Tennessee backfilled with Ryan Staub from Colorado. I'm not really crazy about that, but that's just kind of where Tennessee ended up being, with not being aggressive day one, going after a quarterback, and kind of entering the Sam Levitt mix in a state where Lane Kiffin was able to come and swoop him away, and that's exactly what happened. Sorsby from Cincinnati was never going to come, not for the money that he wanted. I guess Ty Simpson was floated, but that wasn't going to happen. And Bo Prabula apparently wanted to come to Tennessee, but the staff really wasn't sure about him coming to Tennessee, so he went to Virginia. So we are here. New strength and conditioning team. Will they have George McIntyre? Will they have his weight added? Will they have him bulked up? I'm sure they can. It's a really elite level staff that Tennessee has brought in, strength and conditioning wise, and it was needed. Two of the three things Tennessee needed to do, they did. The third, for me, in particular, would have been to see Josh Heupel not call plays. I will give a stat, and I've given it multiple times. We're now on 41, but 4 out of the last 41 head coaches who have won national championships have called plays. 4. That is a terrible ratio, Josh Heupel. You should stop calling plays. I'm not saying that you're not a good play caller, but there are two choices. You go be a play caller, or you be the head coach. You need to pick one. And I think that Josh Heupel, and that doesn't mean you re-sign Joey Halzle to a deal, because Joey Halzle is essentially a warm body. He does not call plays. He's great with quarterbacks. Joey Halzle is a wonderful quarterbacks guru. He is not a offensive coordinator. But I'll digress for the sake of time and everybody's sanity. Tennessee did well in the portal. Their class coming in the portal is really good. Mostly defense. Tennessee got the pieces they needed on offense, a tight end or two, a running back, offensive lineman. Would I have liked to see them get more offensive linemen? Yes. They did what they had to do. We'll wait for the Joey ruling, but overall, I'm more than I'll say, I am happy enough, we'll say that, on the job that Tennessee did in the transfer portal.
Yeah, and they picked up here on Sunday, they picked up 3 more players. Drake Martinez, a tight end who's been at UT Martin the past couple seasons. Jadaeus Richard, I think is how you say his name, from Miami. He started at Vandy, then went to Miami, 3-star cornerback, which they needed depth there. And then I'm going to butcher this kid's name, Ian Duarte from Idaho State.
Yeah,
that was an interesting pickup.
I think you got it.
I hope I did. Wide receiver. He's a 3-star wide receiver, according to On3 and Rivals. So
right.
I think you're right. I mean, they obviously had to hit the portal heavy on defense. Linebacker, they might have trouble finding enough snaps for everybody they brought in, right. Especially with Arion Carter coming back.
Exactly. I'm surprised he did for that very purpose that you just mentioned.
And, you also have T-Lander coming back, which I'm afraid to say he might be one of the odd men out on this. I mean, I like Jeremiah T-Lander. He plays really hard, but he's just lacking that, that speed you might need in the SEC. Maybe he can find it this offseason. I don't know. But loaded room there. Defensive line, it's going to be young. A lot of unproven depth. Cornerback should be, defensive backfield should be decent. I don't want to say they're great, and maybe they'll surprise us, but I think overall I would give them probably a B going in. Transfer portal is not over; they can still pick up guys, but I think for the most part they're close to wrapping this thing up. We'll see, but I think overall it's been a positive offseason considering where they were at the end of the season, and I don't think Josh Heupel's on the hot seat. I think it would take another year of 6-7 wins to get him there, but I think he needed to show some changes and to make some changes, and we'll see. Maybe he does make a change on his play calling. Not something they need to decide right this second here in January, but You're right. I saw that stat. Maybe you shared it on social media about the coaches who don't call plays that have won national championships. Another one that I saw, and you've probably seen this too, is pace of play. The pace of play of the last several national champions have been in the 80s and 90s in the country ranked. Tennessee's obviously always top five in pace of play as quick as they go. So is that something they look at this off season? I'm not saying slow down and get in a huddle every play, but maybe play a little more ball control, which they do at some points. They did it against Oklahoma um, now 2 seasons ago. They did it against Florida this past season to a lot of people's dismay. But let's just call it what it is. They took the air out of the football and got out of
Yeah.
there with wins. But I don't know. Maybe that's something. I don't know that they will, but maybe that's something you see out of this program going forward. Do they slow it down a little bit so their defense isn't out there constantly all the time? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you saw it against Josh Heupel. The thing that won him the Oklahoma game last year or 2 years ago now, lost him the Georgia game last year. Max Gilbert did not lose you that game. We all like to blame, not we all, but some of us like to blame Max. And by the way, Tennessee absolutely upgraded at the kicker position. Absolutely did. Everybody likes to blame Max Gilbert for losing the football game. The game was lost with you taking the air out of the ball. You get the fumble from the Georgia quarterback. You get the fumble from Gunnar Stockton, and you proceed to go running play, running play. I think it might have been 3 running plays. It was at least 2.
It
It
was
was 3.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And then you kick a field goal, you go up 8. My brother-in-law, he's sitting next to me. He says, "We're going to lose this game," and I'm like, "You got to stop it." And I'm like, "No, really." They went conservative. They only went up 8. They could have went up 2 possessions. They didn't. And then we all saw what happened on, what was it, 4th and 7 or 4th and 8 from about the 40-yard line, plus the 2-point conversion, then the miss. So it's the conservative. It's if I can call the plays from my couch and you can call them from yours, we've got a problem. We got to mix in a little bit of something different. We got to get a little bit more creative. So I mean, yes, to your point, we got to do something a little bit different on the offensive side of the ball to get teams, not think, to be thinking that we're going to do some stuff that we're not, because it's predictable a lot of times.
Jayson, I appreciate you joining us. Tell us where we can find you at. I've listened to your show a few times on Tuesday. I think it's on Tuesday nights. You have a Twitter space or a space. I keep calling it Twitter. But tell us where we can find you at, where people can listen to your show each week.
So the days have kind of moved around. It started on Tuesday. I think it went to Wednesday or Thursday. With the holidays, it was crazy. But it's always once a week. Normally Thursday. I'm going to shoot for Thursdays going forward. After this week, it's going to be Wednesday. We're going to do a show Wednesday. We're always live, Twitter Spaces, Twitter X Spaces, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then if you can't catch it, obviously Apple and Spotify is where you can get the show. Space Vols in the search bar, and subscribe, and make sure you leave us a review. But yeah, we'll be here every week. Got matchups against Auburn and Ole Miss to preview. And then I think it's Kentucky and Oklahoma, I believe, after that. But yeah, every week we're just having a ton of fun talking, Tennessee, talking opponents. It's been a really fun time for me, and we're growing, and we appreciate the subscribes and the reviews. It's the best thing that anybody can do, and let us know how we're doing. I appreciate you having me on your show too, man. You guys do a fantastic job. So I'm just blessed to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you. We been doing this for a few years now, and enjoy doing it. Enjoy talking Tennessee. We were joking the last time we recorded. There is never a shortage of anything to talk about with this athletics program anymore, which is great. But sometimes bad, sometimes good. But it seems like the past 2 or 3 months, it's been more negativity, negative talk than positivity. But hopefully, these basketball teams can give us something good to talk about the next couple months, and then you mentioned baseball and softball starting up soon. Excited about that. Um,
Sure.
Less than a month for for both of them, but
Yeah.
excited to be in Lindsey Nelson Stadium here in a few weeks to see the upgrades, and I see the lights on driving down Neyland Drive at night, going home, I see the new lights they've got on. They look pretty sharp just from the road, but they never they never don't give us anything to talk about.
Yeah. And it's always a bridge, you know what I mean? You bridge football into basketball and then basketball into baseball. And then, once baseball wraps up, you're nearly, into fall camp. You're, a couple months, depending on Tennessee's run, it may be a month or 6 weeks, but I mean, you're just about there. So everything bridges perfectly. And it's really a great time to be a volunteer fan. I know that there's a lot that's gone on, recently about, what is and what's not, but it's always great to be a Vol fan every day. No,
Yes,
no question.
sir. I totally agree. Everybody be sure to check Jason's show out, follow him, like, subscribe. Won't be disappointed. I'm not going to come on here and just say that a show's great just to say it. I've listened to you a couple times, more than a couple, several times, and it's always interesting guest on there. Great shows. So everybody be sure to check him out. Jason, appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me. One last thing I wanted to say, my Twitter is at JW Sports 704. That's my Twitter.
And
And I forgot
you're,
to mention that.
I didn't, I knew this, but I'd forgotten about it. And I was, when I looked up your social media today, you're play by play for University of North Carolina Charlotte hockey program. What's that like?
Yes, sir. No, it's fantastic. The first sport I ever loved was hockey. It's my first love. Football came shortly after, but I always loved hockey, and I got the opportunity to be able to do it. I was really looking to get involved somewhere, some way. And I reached out, and they happened to have a gentleman who was doing both. I don't know how he did this. He was doing both PA and broadcasting on the YouTube channel.
Wow.
I don't know
Wow.
how, because it's in two different areas of the arena. So I have no idea how he did this. It was something amazing. But I was given the opportunity. I reached out to the staff there, to the head coaching staff, and they were able to get back to me. And club hockey is something that's extremely different from a lot of sports. They don't get a lot of the funding that major sports get, like football, basketball, baseball. They have to fundraise themselves, and they've got to find talent themselves. And it's not the easiest thing to do, to field a team. And a lot of times they don't field the team, and so you see seasons kind of get split up. But their season starts in around football season in September, and
Mhm.
there's usually a handful of home games. Whenever you can get the ice is when you get the ice. It is really a different dynamic. But I have a lot of fun. There's always, the players that are scratched and not able to play for the night. Some of them will come up in the booth, and we'll cut up and we'll have a great time. And it's beyond just being able to do a show and being able to talk to the guests that I do on Space Vols and being able to broadcast hockey, two things that I love. So to be able to do both, I'm so blessed, and I have such a good time. And I don't deserve the things I have, but I am just so grateful for them. So
I can't imagine somebody doing public
yeah,
address and play by play. I do public address for the high school I went to. I do football, uh, men's and women's basketball, and then baseball. Uh, I don't know. I guess you could do it in football because there's, gaps between plays, but basketball, I mean, there's something going on constantly.
yep,
That's
yep.
crazy to me, but
Yeah, it's
that's
insane.
all.
He must have been
That's
extremely
awesome.
technical.
I would say announcing hockey is never dull because there's always it's a little bit like basketball. There's always something going on the ice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm about to lose my power, my friend. I don't know if you saw the
Jay,
flicker. I'm about to lose it, but I appreciate you so much for having me, boss.
Jason, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, man. Be safe, brother. We'll talk
Yeah,
soon.
you too. Appreciate Jason coming on to the show this week. You notice Harb's not here this week. Harb got stuck at work. I don't think it was weather related, but I think they were probably short staffed or something. And he said it was going to be pretty late tonight before he would be able to record. I can't record any during the week this week with work going on. The Carter Hornets have two home games this week that I'm working. So, got Jason to come on. I've listened to his show several times. He has some local media guests here from the Knoxville area on. He'll have some UT related guest analyst type, I guess you might want to say, on his show. So be sure to check him out. Like he said, they're on Thursday nights on Twitter Spaces. You can also find him there on wherever you get your podcast, Apple or Spotify. Um, Again, no Harb this week. I know y'all are disappointed. It's sad. Miss Harb. Hopefully he'll be back next week. We'll hopefully record next week. Tennessee's got a couple big SEC games on the hardwood this week, men's and women's, as we mentioned with Jayson. The men in particular at Georgia now on Wednesday. That game was supposed to be Tuesday night, but due to weather in Athens, it's moved to Wednesday night. And then at home versus Auburn, big game for me next Saturday night, 8:30, Thompson Bowling, Assembly Center and Arena. Vols need to go 2-0 this week to get to 5-3 in the SEC. That would put them at 15-6 overall. Definitely would be two nice wins to put on their resume. This win this past Saturday against Alabama was a very nice win to put on the resume. First true road win, I guess you might want to say, on the season. It came against a top 25 team in both the human polls and in the computer rankings. But nice win for Tennessee yesterday. Nice to see Nate Ament continue to evolve as a player here. Took him a little bit to figure it out, but it looks like he's starting to get it, which could mean trouble for the rest of the conference. We'll see. Appreciate everybody listening. Like I said, we'll be back hopefully next week. Harb and myself. Remember, you can find us wherever you get your podcast if you're listening. If you want to listen to the audio version and not see our faces, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Maybe leave us a comment. Maybe share this podcast. Help get the word out. Listeners and viewers have been up the past few weeks, so we appreciate everybody that's been listening to the podcast. Harb is not here. I usually point over here to him. He's not here. So this show is for in honor of Harb. We'll do it again next week. I'm Negative Niece. See you guys next time on the Section YY8 podcast.